Hello, and it is still another edition of Tourism Unfiltered Conversation on Tourism in Africa on Cleveland TV. All right, at Cleveland, we seek to be the middle point for all tourism stakeholders and we also help you to achieve your aims and your objectives. My name is Frank Aidemudia, and today we'll be discussing how or the role of tourism and its benefits to Africa. All right, my guest this evening is Adam St. Onji, who is the Secretary of former Minister for Tourism and Aviation, Sports and Marine, and also head at St. Onji Tourism Consultancy. You're welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Secondly, I have Mr. Emmanuel Frimpong, who is the President of African Tourism Research Network. You're welcome to the program, Mr. Emmanuel. We seems to have lost him there. Mr. Emmanuel, you're welcome to the program. All right, he'll join us later. But thirdly, we have a Mr. Alex Ajayi, who is a research scholar focused on sustainable growth and development in Africa. You're welcome to the program, sir.
Thanks for having me tonight. Thank you.
I think I've done enough introduction, and with the three of you, I really don't need to your regular faces on this program and on the station itself. So we'll just go to the business proper, which is discussing how tourism benefits Africa. All right, Mr. St. Angela, I'd like to start with you. All right, when we say tourism, actually, most people believe that when you mention tourism, it has to be just traveling and then out of a country or coming into a particular country. When you say tourism, what does it encompasses? The entire concept of tourism. What is it all about? Let's get to hear that. Start with that.
Okay, I think often we can make a mistake to believe that tourism is only a hotel and the airport where you land. And this is a big mistake. Exactly. I think this is where we underestimate the value of what tourism can do for a country. Tourism is all about developing what we can achieve in a country with arrivals and with people that come to discover our own culture and discover how this country can revitalize them as a visitor. And I think recently in Ghana, Mr. Frimpong Emmanuel did exactly that when he launched a group that are looking at the real statistics, the real value to what we can make out of something. But to know what we are making, we must know exactly the statistics that will help us achieve what we want to achieve. But when we ask any country in the world, why tourism? Tourism is because it is the one single industry that can really put money in the pocket of all its inhabitants if we look at the big dimension that tourism can bring together. If it is from the hands and arts and craft, if it is from the fisherman, if it is from the farmer that supplies the hotels, everything at the end of the day derives a benefit from tourism. But for us to be able to really appreciate it, we need to quantify it and we need to know the source markets in our own respective countries, how this is benefiting the people, the economy of the country, and finally its tourism industry.
Right. Thank you so much. We'll rate the growth of the sector in Africa. Luckily, we are discussing tourism in Africa. So let's rate the sector. How would you rate the sector, the sectoral growth of the growth of the sector in Africa, Mr. Ajayi? Please, I need to come in there. Mr. Ajayi, please.
So, Mr. Ajala.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Mr. Ajayi. I was lost because there's not a Mr. Ajayi there on the screen. If you can just simply call me Oluwole, my other name, Oluwole Ajala.
I think I'll go with Ajala.
Yeah. I'm one of those strange persons who happen to love Africa, to travel around Africa, and to redefine the setup of what is Africa in the first place. Is it just a continent or a country? Some of us tend to look at it as one whole unit. It is not. there's so much diversity that we need to discover. And to make other people want to come to Africa, we need to be able to develop this area of showcasing the way of life of the African, how they live, the forest land, some beautiful lands like the Bavarian forest, which I love to go to in Germany. We have so much of that in Africa, much more. And how do we access those places? We need to, the different governments should need to open up the land. Most of the area we need to go into in Africa are closed. Very beautiful places that God's creation. This will bring people in to, if we now promote these things by advertisement and publications on international tourist magazines, there'll be that curiosity. Oh, let me go and see these places. They say there's a waterfall that brings out only cold water, clean and pure, and discovered that it's almost 99% pure, and has a natural pool that we can swim in the heat of the sun. That will excite people to want to spend money. And not only seeing that, we also need to now build accommodation and also introduce sports, orienteering, and even partaking in the activities of the local people. How do they live? Do they create certain things that we don't have in my country that would want people outside Africa to want to rediscover Africa? Not for colonization only, but to come and spend their heart and money, so that our local people, the fishermen, the weaver, who is weaving in a different format, different from the mechanized one, that I, as a foreigner, wants to come and buy. You see, there's so much we have to redevelop in Africa. Looks like the various governments in Africa are not looking at the potential of the people they rule. The people have the power to create wealth for the different countries, but they are not being used. That's one thing. Even the way they do their farming, people want to see, how do you produce? Is it on a sustained level? Have you been able to advance it to a process where it becomes industrialized? Are there silos on the roadsides, taking up your excess things? These are things people want to come and see in our continent, but we don't have them yet. In any case, we still have some form of tourism, which I believe is less than 10% of the potential of Africa. It's less than 10%. I was in northern Tanzania some 3 years ago. Some of the things that excited me was that they had now discovered that they could make clay bricks using rice stalks. They are planting rice and they're harvesting it, taking the husk to fire the bricks, building beautiful homes, and setting up these things. A tourist will want to come and see how these things are done. There's a wide range of things that Africa has to do if we really want to benefit from the billions of dollars of tourist opportunity that is available worldwide. We are not attracting enough people to Africa yet.
Yeah, we're actually going to come to that, and that is talking about how to attract, all right, how to attract, should I say, those in diaspora and others down to African tourism sites and all that. But before we get to that, you did make mention of something which is a tourism site in Africa. I'll get back to you on that, and Mr. Emmanuel, I'll get back to you on that as well. But I actually want Mr. Alain to come in here. You've been such as a prime minister for quite a while, and then you've known one or two things about the tourism sector in Africa. Could you please outline, all right, the different tourism sites you are acquainted with in Africa?
Well, tourism, you see, Africa is very lucky as a continent. except I don't think we use what we have. We've been blessed with one of the perfect continents, 54 states. We have everything possible. You can look for sun, sea, and sand. You can look for safaris. You can look for mountain trekking. You can look to see royalty with some of the states that have kings. We've got everything. The big five, the small five, you name it, we have it. But do we use it properly? And I think this is the topic that I'd like us to look at as a panel tonight. Because if Africa can believe in itself and then put forward what we really have on this continent of ours, we will find that we will succeed. The last figures that I saw from the UNWTO stated that Africa has below 7% of world travelers. If that is really the figure, the international figure, I think there is some discrepancy, because international travelers also means people of Africa crossing into borders. And then if we take this sort of domestic continental approach, there must be much more than 7%. But if it is 7% of international arrivals into Africa compared to the global figure, then we still have a problem. And we have a big problem that we need to rectify. And I think the point being made by Mr. Ajala earlier, where we should be looking at, is we should be telling the world what we have, rewrite our own narratives, tell the world exactly how Africa is ready to receive its visitors, and then move this narrative forward. I think too often we wait for other people to come and do it for us, and we find that good news or positive news is not news. It is the sad things of Africa that are related to the world, and that does nothing to increase our visitor arrival numbers or bed nights. It actually hurts us every time somebody gives the sad news of Africa. Yes, we have problems. Yes, we have challenges, but we also have a lot of positives, and we have everything to make it succeed. But what we need to do is to sit around some of the brains of Africa to say, we will rewrite our own narrative and push forward the unique selling points, these key USPs that Africa has. And I think this is where we need to go. I mean, if you take East Africa today, the biggest lake, Lake Victoria, now I see recently that they are putting a small cruise ship of some sort on it. But long ago, the only time you heard about Lake Victoria is when there's an accident and a boat has capsized or something. And this is not the picture that we need to do. There's much more. There's fishing. There can be luxury accommodation on it. There can be water sports around it. There's everything possible for this big lake that God has given us, instead of us waiting for other people to do it for us. And I think we as Africans, we need to sit properly at the table, discuss it amongst ourselves, and then move the agenda forward for Africa to succeed.
Yeah, I just coming on what you mentioned about the Lake Victoria when I was in East Africa too. Happened to be one of those strange persons who just on my own travel Africa and see what we do have. The water hyacinth on Lake Victoria, the local women have found that they could convert it into making fiber for bags and other things, and even for clothes. So, and when a government says that, there should be a department that should now start to train people, and part of it should even welcome in our advertorial, tell the world that we want to show you how we are able to convert this natural vegetation into into fiber, into clothes, and so on. Training. You see, tourism should involve the people coming in, partaking in the way of life of the people. It's exciting things to do. And they will go back home happy. Oh, these people are wonderful. They could convert these things. The same thing with Bosotwe in Ghana. I have been trying to reach to the government there. Lake Bosotwe is right in the middle of southern Ghana. And I looked at that place. If I've tried to talk to some of the government officials, but this time, maybe I just don't know. I see a vision of having an express road around that lake, connecting to Accra, Kumasi, and Takoradi. That would be a hub.
Mr. Ajala, thank you so much for that. But I really want us to discuss the tourism sites and attractions in Africa, because definitely if you are bringing people in, they have to know what they are coming into to see. If you don't showcase what you have, there is no way that somebody will know that you have this kind of thing outside. Because I had an interview with a guest a few days back, and the only thing he said, or one of the things he said rather, was that insecurity in Africa. Now, selling your continent, somebody has to know that everything about Africa is not just all about insecurity. There are other things that they can come in here that will give them value for their money. Mr. Mane, please, I'd like you to come in there. In your own country, could you please list some tourist sites in your country, Ghana? Emmanuel, are you there? Hello, Mr. Emmanuel? He seems to be having a bit of technical issues from Mr. Emmanuel's end. So I'll go to my next question, which is on the economic value of tourism. How does tourism benefit Africa? Everybody talks about tourism, and some people see it as just leisure. So if it is leisure, what economic value does it have on the system? So Mr. Ajala, please, I'll need you to continue. Then I'll take the question back to Mr. Allen, but I just need you to start up the economic value of tourism to Africa.
You want me or you want Mr. Ajala?
I'll actually take the same question back to you, but I want Mr. Ajala to speak on that.
Okay. Well, there's what I'll call a potentially high economic value to Africa, but it's underdeveloped. And to develop it, you have to start from developing the rural area. You have to make the rural area livable, that a tourist can come in and be safe to live in among the community. And he's coming in with his hard cash. He's going to spend to buy various things from the local people. There was a time when I was growing up, there was an attempt to have local communities to welcome people from overseas into their midst. Then security was okay because the rural area were livable. We don't have livable environment now. It's so fraught with suspicion. It's so fraught with what I would call the lack of safety in the whole of Africa at the moment, because the rural area is abandoned by government. If only they can see the potential of the rural area, bringing extra funds into the midst, into the economic midst, not just the mineral resources. Not just the mineral resources. You must have a wide base of what I call other forms of resources coming into Africa. And the key thing to it is to develop the rural area. And when the rural area is opened with roads and railways and other activities, productive activities by the local people, the issue of security will be solved. Security is about the poverty of the rural area. That's one key thing that we almost always ignore. We cannot ignore the rural area. Find even in England where I am, the rural area is so beautiful. I love going to, like, there's a place I want to go to next week. It's called the River Dart Basin. It's a small place. The rivers have been so well dredged, and little chalets, the activities to do, to weave, to do things. That's what we should be having in Africa. These are rural areas in Europe. We should make our rural areas livable. That key thing I keep on saying. It should be livable. It should be safe for the people coming in. It should not getting militias to follow them because they want to do tourism. It's not all.
Exactly. We are going to discuss extensively insecurity in Africa and how it affects tourism later on. But Mr. Jala, thank you so much for that. Mr. Alan, I need to pick it up from them. I need to hear your own view, all right, about of the economic value of tourism. How does tourism benefit any country? How does tourism benefit Africa as a whole?
I think, Franca, most of the 54 states of Africa do tourism as an industry. It is not a hobby. It is not just an activity. It's an industry. If it is an industry, we must treat it as an industry, as if we were doing oil drilling or mining for gold or diamonds and everything else. If it is an industry, we must have the structure to make that industry work. How does it benefit? How does it benefit the countries? One, there's employment for our people. There is serious employment for our people. But we need to empower our people to be able to be employed. This is where we need to ensure that we have the hotel school or the training schools that are either in the country or regionally around these different countries, to ensure that our people are well trained to take the place into the hospitality industry. Of course, it makes an income for the country. There are taxes for everybody that are working in the industry, but over and above, our farmers, our fishermen, our cultural people that are entertaining in the hotels, all direct benefits of the country from its tourism industry. But before we get to all this, I think it is very, very important for the country to have the political leaders of the country to say, we are ready, we have the will of our tourism industry. Security or insecurity is one unique selling point if it is full of security, or it is just an adverse point for the country, an adverse star on the country if we have insecurity. So, but do we really have insecurity in Africa? I travel Africa a lot, and I don't know which country. Of course, you have some incidents somewhere, but is the whole country insecure? No. What we need, and I think the more we can move Africa forward, maybe have tourism police that guide people around. Every country in the world, Europe or the America as a continent, you have patches or in the cities that are insecure. But you don't advise people to go in these areas. You advise people to be the norm. I mean, I've been in Accra recently, up and down, and I walk around Accra. Is Accra insecure? No. Even though some people will tell you there are some bad patches, but I don't go to the bad patches. I walk to the normal areas, and I find that Accra, as a city of Africa, is a lovely city, lovely people that we should be promoting for the tourism industry. I know Nairobi very well. It's next door to Seychelles. And of course, Nairobi is a perfect city, good climate, and it has lovely people. I mean, the Kenyans are lovely people. We must find a way, and I repeat, this is the most important point, and I know I've discussed it with Emmanuel before, for Africa to rewrite its narrative, put forward our key unique selling points, and we touch on the adversities or the challenges, but explain what it is and what exists. Today, we all sit and follow the mill that is moving around, that we have all the problems of the world on our continent, and we don't have it. We can be a positive continent of tourism. We can ensure that what Mr. Ajala has spoken about, the technical word is cultural tourism, will follow when tourism is working. But we need to get tourism as an industry, not as an activity, as an industry to be working, and then you'll find that cultural tourism and everything else. Today, you've got medical tourism, you've got sports tourism, you've got agro-tourism. All these things will follow when industry itself, called tourism, is work.
All right. You also talked about trainings in the sector. You talked about the sector working for productivity and one or two other things. Now, whose responsibility? I need to continue, please. Whose responsibility is this to make it happen?
You see, many years ago, when I was in office, we coined the phrase, and the president echoed it at that time, to say, Seychelles must claim back its tourism industry. Claim back, not to say that we don't want investors from outside Seychelles, but we needed to ensure that our people, the Seychellois, were involved in the tourism industry themselves. And I think to ensure that they can be involved, we then moved with the hotel school, hotel training school, to ensure that we had people to man the front office, the housekeeping departments, all the other departments that makes a hotel work, and also for the tour guiding and travel agents to be able to be met, greeted, and be hostesses as people move around. Who is responsible for it? Of course, you can ask private sector to be in a PPP, private sector partnership. But I think the core problem is the state must make the first move to ensure that there is adequate training for our people to get involved in an industry that we are putting forward. If the state is not doing it, then you will find it will take much longer. The cost for private sector to offer it to a young person living in a village will be astronomical. And we need to get the state to be involved, to lead it, as if you've got a university or a high school. This is what it is. I mean, if we were not considering it as an industry, if it was a part-time activity that we all did, of course there's no problems with it. But if it is an industry that we want it to become a pillar of our economy, then we need to train people. We need to empower people to be able to start off as waiters, go up as maître d'hôtel, finally become restaurant manager, and probably one day become GM of a hotel. It won't happen overnight. We need to be training people today. We are late as Africa. There's a good college in South Africa. There's a good hotel school in Kenya. There are a few around the continent, but not enough. Not enough for us to be really, our continent believes in tourism and is putting its money where its mouth is to train people to get involved in the industry that we want so much.
All right, Mr.
Yeah, sorry if I may add to what Christine said. The tour guide should have the local and international knowledge of the environment so that they can relate and even explain things to the tourists that this is so, and it's just like what you have in your place, and let us go to so. And they have to be able to be selective of places that of safety for the tourists. And I think that's part of the training that should come into play. But like you said, the government should see tourism as a major industry. Because some countries are making tons of dollars and pounds from tourism. Some countries even depend on tourism to exist. So Africa is not taking at least a fair share of tourism yet. And I'm happy Mr. Christine mentioned the various aspects of how to do things. It's one of the things I believe on this program we could sort of collate together and even sell it to the different African governments that this is what we believe should be happening, so that you take advantage of the big industry that you've sort of abandoned for so long, and only those places that the colonial adventurers opened up, the Serengeti, and like in Nigeria, you have the Mambila Plateau, which is undeveloped, or the one of those the big. There are places that should be developed, because I mentioned something about Ghana. So I know much about Ghana and the advantages tourism can put into the pocket of the Ghanaian people and the government. but it's still not been seen.
You know, that was actually why I asked that question about, let's first of all list at the place of interest in Africa. All right, but it's still okay. You know, I've had a couple of interviews on this program, and when you ask the clients, some tells you the government is responsible for building the sector, while others says no, stakeholders or private individuals are supposed to be responsible for building these sectors. If that's why I'm still asking this question again, and I'm taking the question to Mr. Emmanuel. Thanks for joining us back. All right, please, I would like you to contribute your own. Whose responsibility is it to grow the tourism sector in Africa? Is it the government or is it that of private individuals? Wow. Wow.
If I may help him there.
Yeah, please tell me. I doubt it's like his line has gone off again.
His mic is off though.
Okay. All right. Mr. Jala, please, while we wait for him, please go ahead.
Yeah. If you can send him a text, maybe he will say it.
Yeah, he will take care of it. Yeah, he will take care of his end. Please go ahead with the question I just asked.
Yeah, it is not wholly government, it's not wholly private. It's a joint activity. And whereby, while the private sector provides a lot of aspects, like Mr. Christine has said, the government should provide the infrastructure, critical infrastructure that will make it possible for people coming to our continent to be able to move around, either guided or freely. There are some who will want to just do what we call orienteering or jungle walking or safari. So we should be able to provide that. It's a joint effort. And if government sees that we're working with the people to develop this aspect of our economy, which is tourism, then there'll be more income coming into our purses. And that will also reduce the level of poverty, particularly in the rural areas, when they are able to tap into the tourist dollar.
All right. I really even want to come in there. You just mentioned the rural area, which is the grassroots, those in the villages and all that. You know,
exactly.
Yeah, a few days back, I had somebody from Edo State that called in, and then he made mention of some rivers in his place, in his village. I think a village in Amaho in Edo State or something of that nature. Now, funny enough, they are not even aware that such sites could be a tourism site. All right, they just saw it as a river. They just saw it as something that they are used to. They grew up with it. They always say it every day. All right. Now, how do you encourage? How do you really teach these people that when there are things like that and the government is not aware, that there are supposed to be the connection between such sites and the government? How do you reach such people?
I believe it's a joint effort. Government should identify such places. The people already know it, they are used to it. And therefore, that's why I said critical infrastructures like roads and connectivity to the cities from the airport. Some people might work, because I was doing a joke on this same tourism way back some years back. There's this Olumok Rock, if I come to that river thing, and the lake I told you about that is very cool. Will I take my ticket, fly from London or from New York to Nigeria because I want to climb a few steps up Olumok Rock and come down? Now, you have to make the place to pay for itself. Like you introduce the local festivals around the place, food types that people cook. Then the cloth, like in the Abeokuta, the Adire thing that the tourists want to see and even try their hands and how to tie. You see, you have to make a package around tourist sites. If you don't, It's just not worth it. It's just like maybe you want to go through the Serengeti, walk through, and then fly on the balloon, which is one, and then come down, and then you go back home. It's not enough. You have to make the people want to come back and tell their friends, let's go back. You've seen these things. Let's go back to Africa. This is beautiful. I would love to even live there. There are chalets there that I could rent for months. I could bring my whole family. These are things that government and the people and the investors should be looking at. Tourism is a very big industry. But Africa, like I said, we are not even taking up to 10% of the tourist dollar yet.
Wow.
We are not.
Wow.
So, and that river, what should have been, it should be opened. Then you introduce people who can guide people on the river, either swimmers or fishermen, and people coming to try to throw the net or do fly fishing. All those activities. Don't just leave nature's gift. That's what Africans are doing. And in central Congo, there's a patch of forest that is grassland. There, all animals come there and they don't kill each other. If you know about that, I will show it when I said, if I'm on your program, I'll show it again. That patch of grassland has a specific type of salt that every animal in the jungle will want to come and roll themselves in, eat part of it. The tigers, everything that there, they don't kill each other there. That's the wonders of nature. We want to see such. Even if it's a balloon trip that we want to fly over that place and see it. See, there are so many places. The Drakensberg Mountain in South Africa, or with the Seychelles, the coastal area, you now promote it, advertise. Like, we need to showcase what we have.
Showcasing it is quite okay, and we'll take it off from there later on. Mr. Emmanuel, are you with us? I can't hear you. Hello, Mr. Emmanuel. Your mic is bad. We can't hear you.
This microphone is bad.
Yeah, I think so. We can't hear you. All right, while he works on his microphone, Mr. Allen, I want you to give us or to tell us give us the Seychelles example on how you fared as a former minister for tourism in Seychelles. All right, like the question I just asked Mr. Ajala, reaching to the grassroots, reaching to the people, the local people that have this site around them but do not really know what to do with them or their importance or the benefits to the nation. What was the Seychelles example as a minister for tourism? How did you go about your own day that works for you?
You see, probably Seychelles is a different cup of tea because we depend on tourism. We know we need tourism, and everybody is involved to make tourism work. So it is a country that depends entirely on tourism. But how does it work? You see, we have different associations in the country, associations that represent different sectors of anything that makes tourism move forward, be it the small boat charters, the guides, the tour operators, the hotels, the small hotels, the guest houses. Everybody meets together. But there will always be the discrepancy between a big player and a small player. And how do you get everybody to be able to be duly represented and have a fair share of the tourism cake that comes in? And I think this is where, when I was in office, we had a magazine that everybody that lands in Seychelles, be it by port or by the airport, would get a copy of this small magazine free. And in there, we would promote things that we are enticing people to go and visit, to discover. You see, when Seychelles started tourism very late, it only started in 71, we had an airport. So it started after that, where you had some people that had the benefit of having bought an island or rented an island, decided to create a one island, one hotel concept. But it doesn't happen overnight. For you to have 20 villas on a small island, and then to ensure that people in the four corners of the world would know about it. This is where I said when we started tonight, we write our own narrative. Let's tell the world what we have, and then the world will discover what we have. If we allow the world to come in, to write about it, to tell themselves what we have, they will only write about things that are happening today, that is the norm, and that they enjoy already. But for us to open the avenue for new activities, new attractions, the country must sit together by themselves with their team players and rewrite their own narrative. Otherwise, we get bogged down with things that are not essential. When there's an Ebola case in RDC, the whole world knows about it.
Exactly.
Or if Senegal has had a problem like there is today, the whole world knows about it. If Sudan is having a problem between two different parts of its military, the world knows about it, because these are sad incidents. But the good incidents, where you can do fly fishing on a river, where people that are fly fishermen, experts, pay a fortune to come and do this tag and release matter. But they won't know that on your river that you spoke about, Mr. Ajala, nobody will know that this exists until we tell people that it exists.
Exactly.
How do you break into two operators program or the description of your respective country to say these are the unique selling points that we are promoting today? It is an industry. This is where I said earlier, if it is an industry, the government must put its money where its mouth is to make its industry work. If we were producing arms, we would have a department in the government that does all arms promotion and how to build it and how to manufacture it, how to sell it. But if it's tourism that is our core business, let us have the same department that promotes it, that develops it, that trains for it, and at the end of the day, ensures that it works and the people benefits from it.
All right, thank you so much. The Seychelles example with Ernesto says story is quite impressive. Now, in other parts of Africa, like Nigeria, where I come from, I don't really see that happening. We don't really see that coming into play. Your example over there, Mr. Ajala, I'd like you to come in here. What are the challenges? What challenges are we really facing? Why is it that we can't even learn from others' examples to grow our sector? Let's use even Nigeria as a case study. And I know that other neighboring countries like Ghana and the rest of them would or are facing the same issue of problem as well. Government not being part of the process of the growth of the industry. Let us try and explain the challenge, the challenges now to the and the constraints to those to the growth.
My co-discussant, Mr. Christian, I said it. Government must see that tourism is a big industry, but they are not seeing it in Nigeria. Some years back in the 70s, there was this lady was in charge of tourism. I saw this because of the nature of what I do. I was so happy. I said, "Oh, let us see the brochure." When I read through, I said, no foreigner will take this brochure and say, "I'm coming to see Olumorok. I'm coming to see whatever few things that are available." Now, tourism is almost nondescript in Nigeria. And even with the kind of, but we have various nodal points that will excite and make the people come. I keep on mentioning the rural areas open up the places that they want to go to. Like the mountain top where there's a waterfall that is very cold. I've even told the government there, and I wrote a little piece of material for them. Please, can you develop this thing? And tourists who will come either will go through about 500 built-up steps and walk the rest to this location. We could build some chalet around these places. let the local people live around, service these places, so that they also can gain from it. Advice. But that was almost 15 years ago. Nothing's been done. So tourism is sort of an abandoned industry in Nigeria. A few people who come know the tourist centers the Europeans created, like the Yankari Games was created by us. It was created by the Europeans for them to enjoy the games in those areas. To get to Yankari Games Reserve now, you have to go through a lot of hell. The roads are not good. So, like I said, critical infrastructure to be developed into the area to open up places of possible tourist attraction. They have to be able to attract people. And also the activities. You see, a tourist will want to partake in the activities, and you want to be able to relate to them and be able to go back and tell the story. So it will be the story of Africans told to the tourists, and they have the tourists now delivering it to other people. Promotion, yeah, unpaid for promotion. We don't have that. And even Kenya, yes, when it was built, we did a study there in the time. There, by now, there's what I call a microclimatic vegetation that has grown on the northern part of it, the northeastern part of the lake, and it has the fauna and flora that have grown there. It's so beautiful, but nobody's talking about creating a tourist location around. That's it. And many other places. The Basita industry that was created as a sample for us is dead.
All right, Mr. Ajala. We are still discussing the challenges.
We need to go back to promote to our government that tourism is a big industry, that we need to get the tourist dollar from the world. What should come and spend tourist dollar in our midst.
It's all right.
Franca, if I can say one word, Franca, and I think I've been to Nigeria, I've been to Lagos, and I think you've got some very, very good people in Nigeria that are tourism personalities. I mean, there's Ikechi Uko, there's Abigail that I've dealt with, are all people
I think you mentioned that
whole tourism. But Nigeria is different to Seychelles. It's a very populous country. You have so much people. So there's a challenge in itself. I attended an Akaba festival, and I can tell you the spirit of the Nigerian in making it happen is there. Maybe what we need in Nigeria. And there's an old French proverb that says, no one is a prophet in his own country. And maybe it is important Nigeria organize like some summit of some sort. Bring some people from outside to preach what you preach to yourselves. And you'll find that people will listen. But how do you get the message? I mean, just look at the traffic of Nigeria. Okay. But there must be a way for us to say to Nigeria, put some order in this chaos of traffic, let's say, and you will find that you can benefit much more. You can benefit much more from your tourism industry because you have everything. I mean, Nigeria is a massive country with a population that makes other countries want to have more babies because they can also grow in numbers. But we need to find a way to echo the message, not to just the people working in the industry, but to the population as a whole, to say you can also benefit from the tourism industry. Let's find areas, because tourism, against a lot of other industries, you can have a very small player who only sells small things to people, or rents a bicycle, or do a lot of little industries. But encourage them to be doing this, and you'll find, I mean, to walk around the city with a guide that is a Nigerian who knows the place, who will tell you, go here, not go there. Rent a guide. There are so many things that you can do. But to get it done, I go back to my original point, rewrite our own narrative. We can tell the world what we have. We will tell the world how to better enjoy us because we live here, we know it, and we are from the continent. I think once we've decided on that, we will be able to make our tourism industry tweak better and make more out of it.
All right. I think we've come to a point where we all agree that both the government, the people, and then the stakeholders in the industry should collectively come together to grow the sector in Africa. But now, who does this job of bringing everyone together? Who does this bridging? Well, bringing both the government, the stakeholders, and then the local people together for this productivity. Mr. Elan, please, I need to continue there. I'll take the question back.
Right. The time is right. You've got a new government in Ghana. I don't know who is the new Minister of Tourism yet. I knew Lal before. But if the new minister decides, we will today kickstart tourism with a new dynamism. And he calls a summit, bringing aviation people, because you've had some aviation difficulties. He brings tourism operators. He brings the hotel people. He brings the universities that you have that are training young people. And he brings a few people from the outside of the country and say, let us sit together out of phones for 1 day or 2 days. Let us devise a new way to look at Nigeria's tourism industry. And that's also Nigeria's economy. Yes, you have fuel, but you also have this one, which is a natural product that sits there. It is your tourism industry as an industry. You will find that so much can be achieved through it. Dialogue is the best way to bring out positive measures and positive ideas. But dialogue is important, and there's only one man, two people probably in Nigeria, the new president who was elected recently, or his new Minister of Tourism, who probably is taking office anytime. They are the ones that must call the meeting and then find the key players of Nigeria, bring them together. If Nigeria did this, you will find that different countries of Africa may follow suit to also get that move going and create a wave, create that tsunami of interest. That's that big wave that'll come in and clean out and relaunch the tourism industry of Nigeria. And I think every country can do the same thing.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Dela, what are your recommendations?
I follow exactly what Christian just said. We have to identify and make sure emphatically that tourism is a very important economic activity that will bring not only the tourist dollar to our people, but to develop our society. I keep on mentioning, if the rural area is beautiful, the rest of that country is going to be beautiful. What I mean by it is that it is accessible. It has well laid out streets. It has activities. It's productive. That's the beauty of a rural area. And it becomes livable. That even people will just tell their parents, maybe in Lagos or anywhere they are, oh, I'm going to that village, Akon. Oh, there are a lot of things there. He stays there maybe 4 days and calls home. Oh, can I stay a little bit more? That's part of what tourism will engender in Africa. We need to write a new narrative to showcase Africa's beauty and the potential of tourism in Africa.
All right, Mr. Emmanuel, we are good to have you back. I hope you can hear us now. Hello, Mr. Emmanuel. Wow, still not responding. Network would have. It's actually a very big problem.
As we're trying to connect Emmanuel, Franca, if I can say something. I mean, Africa's already mobilized itself through an African Tourism Board. It is a private sector organization based in South Africa with people from everywhere. I know Emmanuel is part of it. Abigail in Nigeria is part of it. I am part of it. I was the founding.
You mean the African Tourism Board?
Yes.
Oh,
and if the African Tourism Board is involved tomorrow morning with Nigeria or with other bodies, other countries, to say, how can we invite a few people to sit with the Minister of Tourism, have a televised debate in the respective countries, kickstart it, bring the people. You see, you need to claim back your industry, you need to get the people involved. To get the people
Can you hear me now?
Welcome.
Yeah, we can hear you now, Mr. Mano.
So, am I audible?
Yeah, you please hold on now. We can hear you now, but you please hold on. Let's get to hear from Mr. Elliot, and I'll come back to you shortly. But we can hear you perfectly well now.
You see, the point is, you need to get that.
It's not going to.
Relation.
I'm sorry. The network is not helping.
Sorry? Okay, Mr. Alan, please, go ahead.
You need to get the best involved. You need to get the people involved. And to get the people involved, they must hear you. If they don't hear you, if you have ourselves in little groups, we will never get the mass behind the industry. If it is their industry, they must be involved. They must know what
the network is not working. Speaking? Right.
I think let Emmanuel talk. Emmanuel needs to talk.
Sorry, Mr. Allen. I think we should give him a minute to say one or two things. All right, Mr. Emmanuel, you're finally back with us.
Hi. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now perfectly.
No.
All right. We've been trying to analyze the challenges facing this sector in Africa, taking the Nigerian example. Mr. Ajala came in with one or two.
Can you hear me now? Am I audible?
Yeah, I can hear you, but can you hear me?
I'm sorry for the network. It's been very bad, but in between, I listened to.
Can you hear me? Hello, Mr. Emmanuel, can you hear me?
Yes, I think
this is one aspect.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Critical infrastructure that Africa needs to develop.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes. Okay. I said we're just trying to explore the different challenges facing the growth of the sector in Africa. Mr.
I
Ajala,
listened to Honorable Minister. I listened to them. Most of the presentation, I was able to get it. And they've said most of the things. I think what we need to do as Africans, as His Excellency St. Angie mentioned, is to actually give our own narrative of our own story. We talked about the insecurity. Yes, of course, there are insecurities in Africa. But if you look at the number of people that are killed in a year, in America alone, the United States of America alone, you put Africa together, it is nowhere near America. Yet you hardly hear them stressing on that. So what we need to do as Africans is to actually have our own narrative, focus on the positive. There are several positives that we can talk about in Africa. Let's not focus too much on the negative. Yes, we deal with it, but let's not focus on it. The other thing that was also mentioned, which I need to stress on, is the fact that government must take responsibility of promoting tourism. It should not be the responsibility of private sector to promote tourism. Private sector's objective is to make profit. Government must first put infrastructures together and lead the promotion and marketing of tourism. When that is done, private sector will pick it up and we will do what we do best, doing it the best way we can. But if the government leaves it for private sector to do it, we are not going anywhere. We also have a lot of things as Africans, as has already been established. yesterday I granted an interview to a TV station, and I said, there is no country in this world or continent that I know of
Go ahead, please.
You must tell us the country now.
I think we've...
Africa has virtually everything, yet we don't let the world know. We don't promote it. We don't make noise of it. And this is where we need to make a lot of noise. And I was happy, Honorable Minister mentioned the contribution, the
network is so very, very poor. All right, Mr. LM, okay, he's back.
Oh, the network is not helping, but I think I've made some points. Maybe I'll end here so that my senior colleagues will take it from here. But I don't know if you can still hear me.
Yeah, we heard you. Yeah, we did. But
the network has not been helpful.
Your network is a bit okay now, so if you can.
But if you can hear me, then I think the other thing that we need to do, which has also been mentioned, is training and capacity building. We need to train our workforce in the tourism and hospitality sector. Often you hear that Africa is expensive in terms of tourism. I don't think Africa is expensive. It's not. But the problem is the quality of service that you get when you visit Africa. If you compare it with other countries, Europe and America, you don't get that quality. So people tend to compare and say that it's expensive. It is not expensive. If you look at what you get in Africa, the memory, the experience that you get when you visit any Africa country, you pick any Africa country, the experience you get, you don't get that kind of experience anywhere. And you can't buy that experience. You can't buy that memory. And for me, Africa is never expensive. We shouldn't sell ourselves cheap. We are not cheap. Let us let the world know that we have what, when they come here, they will experience and it will stay in their memory the rest of their lives. So Africa is never expensive. There's a lot we need to do. And I believe there's a generation that will do that. And that generation is all of us.
Thank you so much, Mr. Emmanuel. Our time is fast spent, so I'll just give a minute for each of you, gentlemen, to round up. Give us the last message for stakeholders, the private sectors, the government, and all that. Mr. Ellen, I'll start with you, please.
I didn't catch you at all. Actually, you've gone very quiet.
So sorry about that. I mean the last word, word for the government, the private sector, stakeholders, and even those at the grassroots as we round up the program.
I agree totally with Emmanuel on the final point that Africa is not expensive. Value for money is important. I stay in Accra in one hotel where I've been staying every time I've gone. But my last trip 3 weeks ago, I was hosted to a breakfast meeting in another hotel. And I can assure you, the breakfast that existed, the breakfast buffet in that big hotel, was as good as anywhere in the world, if not better. And the variety was spectacular. I was even amazed. I was amazed that you had such a spread for breakfast, and this was in the center of Accra. We need to really tell the world what we have. And I think if there's one point I'll finish with tonight, tell the world what we have. We have to tell the world. Don't expect the world to tell itself what it wants to hear. We need to be able to really communicate and say, this is Africa, these are our key unique selling points, and this is what we can offer. I can assure you, many years ago, I was invited by the minister in DRC, and he took me, against advice of everybody, to Lake Kivu. And it was part where there was the famous Ebola. I was worried. When I knew that I was heading there, I was worried. But I went, I had a day out with him on the lake, going to a small island, the hotel, it's not working. And we looked at it together. And we discussed tourism together. It was the Minister of Tourism in RDC. And I can assure you, the beauty of Africa, when you get out of the city, you get out these bits of country that very few people get to. You meet the people, you appreciate the culture, you touch the food that we eat at home, and you find that it builds a memorable experience that we will come back. But we must not be shy of Africa. We must be proud of Africa. And for us to know Africa, by visiting Africa, we will be in the better position to tell the world, this is Africa. I can tell you many years ago, we had a carnival in Seychelles, and South Africa with a delegation to parade behind Brazil and Notting Hill and Düsseldorf carnivals and so on. They went on stage with one music. This is Africa. And it was so good. And you had people dressed in groups of Africa, of South Africa. It was the song that was used for the FIFA World Cup. And this song came out so loud, and the ambience that it created. And people, the journalists, there was an armada of journalists here, and they all thought, my God, South Africa did put show for that invite you to visit South Africa. We must do that every day.
All right, Mr. Jalal, just a minute, in just 1 minute, your last word for the growth of this sector.
First of all, I would say thank you for having me today for this program. That should have been my last statement, but I have to say it now because I see African tourism as a very good industry, and we need to see it as an industry where we have to have full package training, like I keep on saying, from the rural area into the colleges and universities, training people in the hospitality, training even the local people on how to receive tourists, and training the local people how to translate. Language is also important. So language education should be one of the key things in our schools. That learn foreign languages, the main basic ones, like Spanish, English, French, Portuguese, Russian, Chinese, so that when you have your tourist guides, they be capable of speaking the local language to the people who have come. That's one of the aspects. So we now see that government's responsibility to promote more economic value for itself lies in its education too, and also in the industry, creating critical infrastructure like roads, railway, and even heliports in various locations all over. Some tourists would like to hop and want to quickly get to certain places. They have read in their brochure. This is where Africa has to produce brochure about who Africa is. It's important. Thank you once more for having me.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Jalal. Mr. Manuel, your last word in just a minute. I think he's off again, but we've heard it all. Thank you so much, Alan St. Onge and Mr. Alex Ajala. It's been a wonderful over an hour with both of you on this program. Thank you for being my guest this evening.
Thank you for making me one of the African tourist guru. Your country has fascinated me for so long. I know your first president was the Playboy. Remember him? I grew up in this era. Man, I knew there's possibilities of a lot to happen in Seychelles.
That's a good one, sir.
It's a very
Thank you.
beautiful. I wish to visit the place, so as to be
Thank
able
you
to
so
go
much.
into the various lagoons, lakes, and forests, and the dresses. The
Exactly,
dances.
sir. We'll have another.
Thank
Should I say edition for this interview? Maybe continuity of this kind of
Okay.
discussion. More time to
Ready
just
to
sit
come
and
on.
talk about this like
Yeah.
this. All right, Mr. Allen, thank you so
Thank you
much
very
for being part of the
Thank
show.
you.
Good meeting
How-
you, Mr. Christian, or former Chief Minister of Tourism in Seychelles.
Seychelles.
You know, a lot of my
Exactly.
people come to your country. They call it
All right.
location, whatever.
All right. Thank you so
Thank you
much,
very much.
gentlemen. And audience, that's the package we have for you today. It's been quite educative and it's also been quite informative. Till next week, we'll come your way with on this program with another set of guests. I remain Franca Idemudia. Do have a blessed evening.